As I mentioned before, there are in total 12 partners involved, and the numbering of them is Germany, from Germany, JRC and Delphi, from Greece, DUA as project coordinator, back of Pyrrhus and UPRC, from Netherlands, ABN AMPRO, and ICP, from Italy, GFT, from Spain, Creara, from Republic 7, from Lithuania, VIPA, and from Bulgaria, DEF. So to give a brief introduction and the overall scope of the AAA project is to bridge the energy efficiency gap by supporting the early stage investment value chain of energy efficiency projects. Plenty of good ideas exist, but often fail to get financed due to a lack of expertise or well-defined energy efficiency criteria specifically implemented in the banking sector. The AAA approach, therefore, aims to promote investments that have an extremely strong capacity to meet their commitments, to identify investments that foster sustainable growth, reduce the time and overall effort for investment conceptualization, increase the efficiency and transparency of the decision-making process, and make investing in energy efficiency projects more predictable and therefore attractive for financiers. So AAA enhances energy efficiency investments by analyzing large amounts of successfully completed ongoing projects and capture the feedback of the stakeholders through bottom-up consultation process, such as structured interviewers. Through this process, we aim to elaborate and categorize financing instruments and risk mitigation strategies, as well as suggest the most suitable financing projects models on a case-by-case basis. Once completed, while the results be shared through a web-based database which support cross-country analysis and comparison between energy efficiency projects. The database is currently already accessible through the AAA website. However, new iterations and updates are still being made. The goal of the web-based database tool is to reduce the overall uncertainty for making energy efficiency investments, spread the knowledge and insight on financing options, showcase the replicability of innovative financial instruments. This database enables a comparison per member state and identification of market maturity, which leads to a fruitful policy analysis for scaling up energy efficiency investments and reducing the uncertainty for investors by simply going through this one standardized AAA tool. So how energy efficiency financing becomes mainstream? The deployment of the standardized tool and subsequently the energy efficiency investment benchmark test allows users to effectively assess sustainable energy investments and better integrate energy efficiency in investors' strategy. By doing so, AAA tries to make investing in energy efficiency projects become mainstream. Once a project finalizes the tools offer an easily navigatable overview of attractive project ideas for financing institutions, selection of energy efficiency investments that are ready for further support, an in-depth funding strategy and portfolio of energy efficiency projects that match of interested beneficiaries, general stakeholders consultation and knowledge exchange among participating organizations, and extensive background information and insights into 8 strategically selected case studies. So the full length of the AAA project title is Enhancing at the early and early stage investment value chains of energy efficiency projects. And supply, simply put, has a practical, result-oriented approach seeking to identify investments that can be considered AAA investments. The project defines 3 research questions: how to assess the financing instruments and risks at an early stage, how to agree on the AAA investments based on selected key performance indicators, and how to assign the identified investments ideas with possible financing schemes. The case studies focus mainly on strategically selected to promote diversity across a number of factors, consultation process to engage national stakeholders, 8 regional training workshops and webinars in each case study, AAA investments identified in each case study, a synthesis paper for each case study with targeted recommendations on policy framework and market architecture. In this slide, I want to show you the key sectors and to quick summarize the introduction part. 6 clear outcomes are envisioned for AAA. We aim to enhance the investors' interest in energy efficiency projects, set up AAA rating systems that can assess early stage investments, give a clear definition of key performance indicators, and create a benchmark tool. Provide a simple, easily accessible web-based database on energy efficiency financing, make links with other energy efficiency certification schemes, and lastly, to promote European priorities and targeted policy actions that could help leverage more private funding into energy efficiency investments. Here we have the key sectors and measures inspired by the energy European Union taxonomy. For the buildings, the key sector are residential and non-residential, and the measure are retrofits, building envelope, lighting appliances, automatic control, RES installations, and construction of new buildings. For the manufacturing category, we have a sector of hydrogen, iron and steel, aluminium, low carbon technologies, nitrogen, other organic and inorganic basic chemicals. And for measures, we have a manufacturing specific retrofits. In transportation, we have public transport and passenger car, and the light commercial vehicles, and the measures the measures are on new vehicles more. For the district energy networks, the sectors are district heat and cooling, distribution, installation and operation of electric heat pumps, cool and power, cogeneration and production of heat and cooling. The measures are in district energy networks, retrofits and expansion. And the outdoor lighting, as the last sector, we have no subsector defined, and the measures are outdoor lighting retrofits. The three different phases of the project are development, implementation, and operation phases, in which different risks may occur, such as poor quality of initial saving assessment, energy consumption baseline not well defined, implementation of poor quality equipment or poor project design, operation and maintenance risk, low incentives and to generate saving and mitigate risks, and non-compliance with or changes in regulation. The challenge to achieve European Union climate targets, significant investments in energy efficiency projects have to be implemented. However, the immaturity of the energy efficiency market are significant barriers and for financial institutions to enter the market, even through energy efficiency projects are profitable. There are plenty of project developers that are seeking funding of green development. However, these projects tend to never get financed for various reasons. On the one hand, project developers do not have the expertise or resources to make a convincing financing case of investors. On the other hand, private investors suffer from absence of knowledge on the way project developers implement their projects. Overcoming such challenges in order to obtain viable financing for energy efficiency is a topic that interests private financial institutions, industry representatives, and sector experts. In this direction, this report focuses on the identification of the potential risks from the financial bodies perspective, mainly in the development phase of energy efficiency investments, where plenty of energy projects ideas exist, and there is available capital to realize this project. The proposed AAA scheme could assist in making energy efficiency investments transparent, predictable, and attractive for investors and financiers by reducing the assessment of the relevant risks that could possibly emerge at an early stage of the project pre-evaluation. The calculation of the overall risk of energy efficiency investments must be preceded by an assessment of the risk factors. A methodology of evaluating each of the identified risk factors has been developed by using as input the risk factor identified, a qualitative or a quantitative analysis. There are four main strategies to deal with risk. Risk can be reduced or eliminated, transferred, accepted, and avoided. Risk reduction or elimination suggests that remediation activities are planned in order to reduce the level of the risk's impact or probability of occurrence in the project. A highly cited technique used for risk reduction is hedging, which can be used to mitigate energy prices and energy taxes volatility, as well as interest rates volatility. Another risk reduction technique mentioned in the literature is the use of fixed price contracts, while for interest rates volatility, it is suggested choosing a long-term fixed interest rate rather than a floating one. Risk transfer means transferring the risk to another party. A risk transfer technique in energy efficiency investments is to sign EPCs, and engineering, procurement, and construction. Contracts are for a form of contract used to undertake construction works by the private sector on large scale and complex projects. In this way, the risk can be transferred from the building owner or to the ESCO. Acceptance or absorption of the risk means that no actions are taken to reduce the risk because the possible impact is acceptable in the context of the project. Risk avoidance can be implemented by using quality control practices and to ensure that when the probability of risk occurrence exceeds a present threshold, the project is aborted. Furthermore, this strategy can be taken into account when risks occur and their impact on the project is significant. Risk categories with each risk factor and risk mitigation strategy are first financial, with the risk factor in creditworthiness of the borrower. As a financial risk mitigation strategies are project aggregation, loan guarantee mechanisms, off-balance sheet financing grants, and subsidies. Energy market and regulatory. The risk factor is requested for issuing project permits, energy prices and taxes, volatility, and as a mitigation strategy is the forward and fixed price contracts. Economic, with a risk on weak economic environment. Behavioral, with risk factor on rebound effect and risk mitigation strategies, energy and eco taxes, information provision, price regulations, grants and tradable permits, energy efficiency standards, absolute caps, sustainable communication, design, evaluation, and performance of policy, economic instruments, sustainable lifestyles and consumer behavior, and promoting education in business, technology, and innovation. And last, but not least, technological planning and operational, with risk factor technical complexity, low quality of initial saving assessment, implementation of low quality equipment or poor project design, and as a mitigation strategies, energy saving guarantees, diagnostics, performance bonds or insurances, equipment insurances, insurances required by the law, and standardized processes. And this is the end of the session one. I recommend to do a 5 minutes break and then to give the floor to Estella to present the tools.
Thanks, Konstantina. That works for me. So see you back in 12:33 or something like that.
Yes.
Is it in the next session that we can see, for example, some examples, some concrete case of risk assessment? Is this with you in your presentation, Estella? Or?
No, in the next session, I am just presenting the tools actually that have been developed within the project. So we will go online and go through the tools together. And the tools do the risk calculation, but I will not talk about any like underlying methodologies.
Okay. Because in this seminar, I think there are quite some few people that understand risk assessment, right, in the financial sector, like value at risk, expect shortfall, and things of that nature. Okay, I'm looking forward to the next session.
Okay. All right. Should we start with session 2? Is everybody back?
Yes, please. Yes, I think we can start, right?
All right. I would just share my screen. But Konstantina, can you please stop sharing yours? Otherwise, I will not be able to share mine. Thank you. All right. Okay, let's talk about the AAA tools. The AAA tools and the database are practically the implementation of the AAA approach. So consisting of the tools, standardized tools, and the database. We start with the first. So what are the objectives of these tools? Some of it you have already heard previously, but I guess it doesn't harm to hear it again. So overall, they provide information on the identification and on the financing of AAA, so-called AAA investments. They have been developed to make investments in energy efficiency projects first, more transparent, second, more predictable, and third, more attractive, and thereby supporting financiers and project developers alike to increase the amount of capital invested in such projects. They further provide a standardized process for identifying attractive project ideas for financiers, including suggestions for appropriate financing schemes that can be used to finance these projects. Last but not least, they also provide a portfolio of pre-categorized energy efficiency projects that have passed the first steps of the tools. What these categories are, we see when demonstrating the tools directly online. But before doing so, let's have a bit more detailed look into the different steps. So as mentioned earlier as well, there are 3 steps: the assess tool, the agree tool, and the assign tool. And the first one, the assess tool, acts as a risk assessment tool, which checks the compliance with the substantial contribution criteria of the EU taxonomy of energy efficiency investments. It leads to a pre-screening of investment ideas in accordance with the country context and sector-specific characteristics, also taking into consideration the categorization of financing instruments and risk mitigation strategies. We heard a little bit about the risk mitigation.
We can see your slides, at least. Sorry for the interruption.
Oh, okay.
Make sure that you have shared them properly. And thank you very much.
I said freigeben. All right, let's try again. Now, can you see it?
Yes, now.
Now it works, yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Sorry for interrupting.
I missed one button. Okay, so we have the 3 tools here as shown previously as well. The assess tool calculates the risks per factor, as well as the aggregated risk of the investment. And the risk categories we have seen before as well, presented by Konstantina. So the second step is the agree tool, which benchmarks the predicted performance of each energy efficiency project idea that has been inserted in the assess tool in the first step. It further supports the identification of so-called AAA investments, which is one of the categories that I mentioned earlier. And as such, we defined energy efficiency investments that have an extremely strong capacity to meet the energy saving targets already from their conceptual phase. That is where they are still considered as like just a project fiche from the funding institutes. The tool takes advantage of various existing or so new KPIs, key performance indicators, in order to identify the potential AAA investment. The benchmarking method is based on a multi-criteria classification method, taking into account major economic risks as calculated in the first step in the assess tool. and energy-specific sustainable development goals criteria. So the SDGs are also considered. The respective project will then be classified into one of the following categories. So as mentioned earlier, the AAA, but there's also 2 other categories, reserved or rejected. And this is classified according to their performance on the evaluation criteria. If the project results are not as expected, you will have the chance to get additional tips and suggestions how to improve the project ideas. You can view these tips and suggestions online on the tool site. The last step and the third tool basically is the so-called assign tool. And this tool is responsible for the matchmaking of AAA investment ideas, which successfully passed the assess and the agree tool with proposed financing schemes. So it is a multi-dimensional platform consisting of numerous interfaces according to the different beneficiaries and users, and energy efficiency financing instruments. For example, financing bodies can benefit from the assign tool as it provides them with access to a pool of profitable and pre-evaluated AAA projects. Also, projects could, for example, be aggregated by investors to create green bonds or a green bond portfolio, while they can also explore a database of green bonds that have been published to the tool by project developers, for example. And as far as it concerns the project developers, they will be notified of financing requests from potential investors, along with details regarding the proposed financing scheme, and also the investors' contact data so that they can get in touch with them and discuss the financing of their project that they have put into the tool before. If project developers are interested to issue green bonds, they can search for other profitable projects that have been inserted in the tool. And so there is a pool of such projects available, and then they can aggregate them and issue respective bonds to attract investors. Yeah, but this is enough theory. Let's go to the tool and try them out. Just before that, I want to show you the example that we're going to use for demonstration purposes. And I selected a real project, which you can also check out, and it's publicly available on energynet.de. And it's about a highly efficient power generation from waste heat. And to give you a little bit more background on this example, the melting process for metal extraction at a certain plant generates a large amount of waste heat, which is used to produce steam in waste heat boilers. To make optimum use of the steam, a 2-stage condensing turbine plant was installed. And with the help of this plant, more than 20,000 gigawatt hours of electricity are generated annually by expanding the steam. This corresponds to roughly 40% of the site's electricity requirements. And in figures on the right side of the slide, so the absolute final energy savings per year amount to 21,500,000 kilowatt hours a year. The cost savings per year amount to 3,010,000 euros, and the overall investment costs are 6,150,000 euros. The plant, the organization basically also applied for subsidy from the BAFA, the Bundesamt für Wirtschaft und Ausfuhrkontrolle, to implement this project. The next session, you will hear a bit more about possible funding schemes and support schemes in Germany. And what we also know is the CO2 reduction per year, which amounts to 13,180 tons. All right, I will stop sharing this one, and then we go straight to the tools online. So let's go here. All right, can you see the website of the tools? Does that work? Could I please get a short yes or no?
Yes.
All right, perfect.
Yes, yes.
As at the beginning, I messed it up with the presentation. I just want to be sure that you see it.
No problem.
So as a first step, we need to register, which is very easy. It's like just a few seconds. I will quickly do it myself. So you provide a username. And here you can choose a category. If you are a financing body, you would choose, of course, a financing body. If you're a company, for example, a project developer, you would choose that one, or then you have, like, as I said, the different categories you can choose from. I would choose financing body because, as mentioned earlier, the interface of the assign tool differs depending on the user category. And if we have the financing body, then I can also show you the whole list of projects that have been inserted in the tools. Quickly use my email address. I would also encourage you at the same time to open the web page yourself. So you just go to the AAA project, and then you can access it from the main page. So it's aaa-h2020.eu, and you go on tools, and then you can access the standardized tools. Or you can also go directly to toolbox.aaa-h2020.eu, and then you have directly the page to the tools. So I would encourage you to go online and do the same yourself, and then you can play around a little bit.
These are public tools, right? So any one of us can access them?
Yes,
or?
yes. You can all access them without any problem. Does it not work for you?
Yeah, we will have to register, right? To use it.
Yes, everybody has to register. But as you just saw, it's like a thing of a couple of seconds.
1 minute, yeah, very good.
Should I wait or proceed?
You can proceed, because it's, at least for me, I would like to pay attention, right? And then do that myself offline.
Okay, sure. All right, so the username that I just inserted earlier, and the password, and log in. All right, so now I'm logged in. Now I can actually use the tools. And let's start with the assess tool, the first one. Here again, on the first page, you have a little description what the tool does. And you also see the 8 case study countries from which the data has been taken and will be constantly updated, like the data that is underlying the tools and from which the risk will be calculated. And yeah. So first of all, you have to tick the box that you agree that the project data and contact information you submit will be saved, and that also other users can see this information, because the assign tool, the purpose of the assign tool is to match project developers with financiers to get the projects that have been inserted in the tool actually financed. So it's important to also share the data. One more thing I want to show you before we actually start. So if you click on profile, you see your profile, there are the required fields, and then what you can do, you have the optional fields down here. We can actually insert a bit more data on your company, and yeah, thus give a little bit better picture to other users who you are and what your company basically does. And yeah, so let's go back to the assess tool, the first step. I take the box here and I can get started. So first I need to insert the project name. We just call it metal plant. As we're in Germany, we choose Germany from these 8 case study country examples. Region, let's say Brandenburg. I have to provide my email again. I can provide a phone number. I don't have to, for the sake of simplicity, I don't do it now. And then we have a brief description. So high efficiency power generation from waste heat. And now I can choose from one of the sectors that have also been presented previously in the session before. And this is industry. So we go to the manufacturing sector, we submit. And now I have to select the subsector. It's within the iron and steel. Submit. And what the first thing is the tool does is it shows whether your project is compliant with the EU taxonomy regulation and the criteria. It's not exactly, it does not really show whether it is, but it shows you, to be more precise, the criteria that have to be met in order to be compliant. And you as a user in the end have to say whether, according to these criteria, your project is compliant or not. So in the end, you have to choose yes or no. And some of the criteria is already listed here. But what it also offers is a link to the technical report with the paragraph where the criteria is even more detailed. So you can just click on it, and then it will refer you to the technical annex of the tech report on the European taxonomy. And then, you can search for the respective paragraph 3.4 and check yourself whether this project is compliant or not. If you have done that, you tick the respective box. In this case, we just say yes for simplicity, submit. And now it asks you a couple of questions related to the risks. So in order to be able to calculate the risk, you have to answer these questions. For example, has the baseline for the calculation of energy savings been defined through a standardized procedure? We just say yes. Second, how the energy savings assessment has been conducted. We say through empirical approaches and processes. Is there a request for project permits? Let's just select that there has not been a request issued. Does the team which plans and implements the project have sufficient competence and experience? We would say yes, it does. Who conducts the technical implementation of the project? We would say that it's the technology supplier. So we tick the box here. Has there been proof about the quality of the equipment installed? Well, let's say yes. Does the user have experience in operating the tool? Of course, it's a company itself operating the tool. Has there been a maintenance plan considered? Let's also say yes, we're a well-prepared company. Have M&V protocols and standards being considered? Yes. Are there available product warranties? Let's say yes. The creditworthiness of the applicant for the loan and financing. We just bypass this. We don't really know. So let's bypass this one and submit. And as a result, you have now the risks calculated by the tool. So you have the different risk categories that were mentioned earlier as well, and the total aggregated project risk. In this case, it's rather low. So we can assume that this is a pretty good project actually. But we are not done yet. Let's go to the next tool, to the benchmarking, the agree. Here again, you have a little description of the tool, what it does and what the results will be. You have to tick the box again that you agree to all the data information that will be submitted and saved. And then you can get started. So here you need to provide more technical details. First of all, we need to select the project for which we want to insert these details. And as we just registered, we only have one project in that list, which is a metal plant that we inserted just before. If you have more projects, you can choose from a wider list here. So we take the metal plant. Annual electricity savings, we have them. They are annual energy savings, kilowatt hours per year. They amounted to 21,500,000. Do I have enough zeros here? Yes. There has not any, don't have any information on natural gas savings or other fuel savings. We do have the annual monetary savings, the annual cost savings, which amounted to 3,010,000 euros. We have the total investment cost, and that was 6,150,000 euros. And we don't know the annual operating cost nor the annual other fuel prices, which we don't need anyways, because we don't have any other fuel savings. But what we know as well is the annual expected reduction of CO2 emissions, which amounted to 13,180 tons. So at the end, we can also choose whether this is a private project and will only be visible to us, or whether we make this project public, so it will also be visible to the other users of the tool. As this is just a demonstration purpose, we just click the box as private project and submit. So now what we can do, we can weigh, first we can select the financial indicator which is most important to us in order to evaluate whether this investment makes sense or not. And I would just click the net present value because it's a very well-known KPI and widely used, and it's a pretty straightforward, simple KPI. And now we can also weigh the different indicators. And we have different possibilities to select from very high, high, medium, low to very low. Let's say that the financial indicator weigh is very high to us. Avoidance cost weigh, we say it's rather medium. The aggregated risk, let's say it's high. And then it also includes the sustainable development goals in this step. And we just say this is very high to us as well, because with this project, we want to contribute to lower emissions and thus reaching overall the goals of the European Union becoming climate neutral by 2050. So we submit. And now we have the overview of the project, the data we put in, and all the calculated risk and the KPIs. And here on top, we see the project category based on our inputs. And in this case, we have a so-called AAA project. So it's a very good project. And it should not be difficult to find financing for this project. It could be, if we would have put in different data here, it could be reserved or even rejected. You would see this here on top. Yes, John, please, you have a question.
Yeah, very interesting work. I have a couple of questions. Is this the right time or?
Yeah, sure. We are at the last step of the assigned tool. I'm not sure if I can answer you the questions because I'm not the developer of the tool, so I have no knowledge about all the underlying data methodology. So please go ahead.
Let me make two questions and maybe two comments that maybe you and Konstantina could convey also to the consortium, for some future collaboration. So,
sure, please.
So regarding the tool, to my knowledge, the EIB, the European Investment Bank, has some criteria for awarding financing to sustainability projects, right? As soon as you have the proper indicators like CO2 savings and so on. So have you taken into account these requirements and this tool, or you have developed this independently?
As far as I know, this tool has been developed rather independently. So it took other tools out there into consideration and other methodologies. But the tool here is really specified to the AAA approach. It's not checking the necessary reporting or KPIs or whatever data from other institutions. So the purpose of this tool is to materialize the AAA approach.
Because the one which is, I think it will have a great impact, right? Whoever in Europe is working on really, providing some sustainability impact, some serious sustainability impact, they can be eligible for serious funding, right, from the EIB. So, I mean, you can get funding up to 75 million euros, right? So that's really, but, to be able to apply, you need, to be able to demonstrate the sustainability indicators, right? That make you eligible for that funding. So I think that certainly, I could provide some pointer to Konstantina, and that certainly you might want to discuss in the consortium.
Right? EIB, though, has just recently launched its own tool for this purpose, for this specific purpose. It's called the Green Eligibility Checker.
Okay.
You can Google it. It has just been launched like a few weeks ago. And there, if you insert a project, you get exactly the data that is required when applying for funding through the EIB. But it's a specific EIB tool. So the AAA is more general, and what the AAA tools try to do in the end is to like this matchmaking, for example, which is part of the assigned tool we will see in the next step.
Yeah, that was my second question. Is this a sort of self-assessment? So I do it, to get an idea of my project.
Yes.
Or it is also, and this is a question, for sharing, with other stakeholders for potential matchmaking. Because in this second case, it would make sure, to upload some, documents or evidence of the calculations, right? Because I think that in some of the fields, it is just the claims I do for my project, right?
Yeah, of course, if you get like a match with someone, with a financier, for example, if you are a project developer and you insert a project here, and then a financier sees the outcome of the data that you inserted in the tool, you can get connected, and then I'm pretty sure that you will exchange all the underlying proof and documentation directly with the financier. But this is not, there is no upload page in the tools.
Okay.
Let's just go to the assign tool. There you will see how the matchmaking process works, and then maybe you have more questions, or they will be answered by them.
I'm done with the questions, right? Of course, I will
okay.
The presentation in the end. Just two suggestions, right, that you can convey to the consortium, because I'm from Infinitec project. And, we are also a big community working on digital finance, not ESG and energy efficiency in particular, but for us, it would really make sense in 2022 to organize a joint workshop for our community on risk assessment, where AAA could, present what you have been doing and disseminating this to our community, which is a digital finance and big data community. So maybe, you can keep a note on this and convey to, I don't know, Professor Xaras or whoever is to decide this on AAA. And a second comment is maybe you can improve the the interface of the tools, right? Don't get me wrong, right?
Yeah, the development of the tool lies within the project leader, the University of Athens.
So this is a constructive comment. Don't get it wrong. Right?
No, that's it. All comments are welcome. And again, I encourage you to fill out the poll that is accessible, because this is part of improving, right? So if we collect the comments, that's the only way we can really improve. And so thank you for this.
Thank you so much, Stella. That's what the information I would like to share. So let's see the final part of the presentation.
All right, so we are done with the agree tool, the second step of the whole process. And now we go to the third, the assign tool. So here again, you have a little description. What I forgot to mention at the beginning, there is a video as well that has been developed by the developers of the tool. And it also gives you some background information and navigates you through the whole, different tools and how they work and so on and so forth. There's also a manual that you can actually download from the AAA page. Here, for example, you have the library, you have different publications. And I think there you should be able to, download the different deliverables that have been produced and that are related also to the risks, how the risks are calculated, what kind of factors are taken into consideration, and so on and so forth. So what we can do as we are logged in as a financing body, so we can search the library or the pool of different projects by going to finding projects. And here we have all the projects that are publicly available and that have been inserted in the tool before. And we can also here select how many entries you want to see. Let's keep it the 10. And if you move the bar, you see all the different inputs, data inputs. So is it taxonomy compliant? Yes. What are the total costs, the annual costs, if they have been provided information, avoidance costs, average life of the measure that has been implemented, then the electricity savings, but all this information is what has been put in by the users before. So what we have done in the first 2 steps during the assess and agree process, this is the information that you find here on an aggregate level. And then if you're a financing buddy, you can choose whether you find any of these projects really attractive. And you can make an offer, like you click on the user that has inserted the project, and you can make an offer directly to them. You can contact them. Here you have the email address. You can refer to the project that you would like to finance, and then you can get in touch with that user. So you have a whole database here for the matchmaking process. I'm not sure how many entrants we have. Yeah, so there are a lot of different entrants here. Our project will not be shown in this list because we selected a private project previously in the agree step. So what else can you do as a financier? Now I was too quick. So you can also aggregate projects for green bonds, for example. So you can click which projects you want to aggregate, and then you can insert the parameters that you want for your green bond. And once you submit it, it will be listed. And what else can you do? You can find green bonds if any green bonds have been already submitted. Again, you get the different indicators that have been inserted in the step just before when you check on creating a green bond. So the fixed interest rate, minimum interest, maximum interest, interest period, etc. And again, also you can here contact the issuers if you click on the respective name. And then, of course, you can see your own proposals that you made to certain project developers. You can check your own portfolio. You can create a portfolio, or you can also publish an energy efficiency auction. So these are the different things that you can do if you are logged in as a project developer. If you would be logged in as a financier, if you would be logged in as a project developer, your options here would be slightly different, but I would encourage you to just try it out yourself, and also for the sake of time. So that's basically the 3 tools of the AAA approach. Let me log out. Any further questions on the tools? No. All right, let's then have a quick look.
If it was public, you don't implement some moderation or some approval process?
No, this is up to you once you made the contact with the respective other party.
Okay, because
this is just
to avoid having maybe non-relevant projects or entries which are not properly formulated. You could have some moderation, right? Like,
yeah, I'm honestly not 100% sure whether there's such process implemented by the developers, whether they check the tool on a regular basis for such false projects. Yeah, that would be a question we could forward to the developers.
Our project was private, but what happens if I submit a public
I mean, you can always delete a project again, right? There's always the option if you click on the project that you have inserted to delete it from the website. It's not there forever.
Okay.
I can try to find this. Let me just quickly log in again. So I think, where can I do this? I know that this is possible to do. No, this, where do I do that? My projects here. So here I have the project that I have inserted earlier with all the data. And if I click here, I can delete the project. So now it's gone. Now it's not available anymore in the database. So you up here next to the logout and your profile, you have the list of all the projects that you did. You could also print it or make an export in Excel with all the data. All right. Quickly stop this and let's go to the database, which is the second part of the toolbox. All right, I keep it short. So the database is a supplementary element basically to the tools that we have just seen. And it's a user-friendly web-based database on energy efficiency financing. And basically a visual representation of the key findings of the AAA project. And also the most important aspects in energy efficiency financing. This includes, for example, the risks that could be endanger successful implementation of energy efficiency projects. It includes the strategies that could mitigate such risks. It includes the preferences of investors on energy efficiency investments, the financial performance of energy efficiency projects, the models and instruments that are usually used to finance energy efficiency projects. And it also includes the performance of the case study countries in terms of the sustainable development goals. So basically, the database includes a quantification of all the risk factors shown in the table here on the right on the slide, and that were also discussed in the previous session. So you can access the data also via the AAA main page, or directly if you insert database.aaa-h2020.eu in the browser. So we will quickly have a look at it together as well, just as we did previously with the tools. Therefore, let's go back to the website. So here we are at the general web page of the AAA project. We click tools, and here we can go to the database directly. Well, one other step here. So again, you have a little description of what the database is, of the goal of the database, what it's supposed to to do. And if you click here, you can check out the different results of the AAA project works, basically. So if you want to know about the country risk of the 8 case study countries, you click on country risk up here. You get a short general description. And then let's check out the total country risk. And if you hover over the respective country that's of interest, you get like a percentage of the overall risk for the country in regard to energy efficiency financing. And here you have the different risks that were taken into consideration. So the energy prices and tax volatility risk, if you click on it, you only get that risk shown. If you click on the weak economic environment, you get only that risk shown, and so on and so forth. And here the total risk is the aggregate of all these different risks seen below. And they have also been presented earlier by Konstantina. So it's like all these risks are the same for the database for the AAA tools. So if you want to know something about typical financing models, for example, for energy efficiency projects, you go here, and then you can click on each different model itself to get a bit more detail of how that works. What are the advantages and disadvantages of that specific model? And you have a whole list of different typical financing models: on-bill financing, property assessed clean energy, energy efficiency mortgages, and so on and so forth. So this is basically a knowledge database. And on the menu here, you can see what is available and what has been researched in the framework of the AAA project. And it's collected, it's summarized, and made publicly available on this database. And as you've seen at the beginning, there's no need to register or anything. Everybody can just simply access the database. That's about it. Are there any questions? No? Well, then I would hand over back to Konstantina for the last session. Konstantina, do you want to have another break, or should we just continue?
I suggest to have a very small break, 5 minutes. Thank you very much for your presentation.
Okay, thanks everybody.
So let's come at 20. So welcome back. In the last session, we will present the financing energy efficiency in Germany. General, the financial models for energy efficiency funding are numbering energy service contracts, efficiency as a service, third-party financing, soft loans, on-bill financing and repayment, property assessed clean energy, energy efficiency mortgages, and crowdfunding and cooperatives. Germany's national climate change strategy is defined in the Climate Action Plan 2050, which sets out a longer-term pathway for sector-specific emissions reductions as part of Energiewende. Compared with a base year of 2010, the key goals are to achieve at least 40% cut in greenhouse gas emissions by 2020, 55% by 2030, 70% by 2040, and 80 to 95% by 2050. At which point the country expects to be mostly greenhouse gas neutral. These targets are complemented with short and medium-term targets for energy consumption, energy efficiency, and renewable energy supply. As a member of the European Union, Germany's climate policy is guided by the framework of energy of EU energy and climate policies, the 2020 energy and climate package, and the 2030 energy and climate framework. Energy efficiency strategy for buildings. In the building sector, the energy efficiency strategy for building serves as a strategy foundation for policy. The long-term renovation strategy stated here in the implementation of the ESG, energy efficiency strategy for buildings. The ESG is the federal government's strategy paper for the energy transition and in the building sector. The federal government has set itself the ambitious target of achieving an almost climate neutral stock of buildings by the year 2050. This means that in the building sector, the primary demand for energy must be reduced by 18% by 2050 compared to 2008. The target of an almost climate neutral stock of buildings is assessed as being attainable in principle, despite restrictions in energy efficiency and certain limits to potential regarding renewable energies. The technical and energy related aspects in the ESG also considers first approaches to economic issues and the outlook of social policy issues as these relate to the building sector. Beyond this, the energy policy aspects, spanning a variety of disciplines, are addressed in terms of the future prospects. The federal government wants to make Germany's building stock virtually climate neutral by 2050, as I mentioned. In order to achieve this goal, more of heating systems need to be supplied from renewable and efficiency energy, and buildings need to have more energy efficiency. The Building Energy Act brings together in one law the various regulations for building energy efficiency and the use of heat from renewable sources namely the Energy Saving Act, the Energy Saving Ordinance, and the Renewable Energy Heat Act. It also implements the EU Energy Performance of Building Directive and defines the near zero energy building standards. There will, however, be more ways to comply with the requirements, and new technologies have been included. Another innovation is that electricity generated with solar energy on or near a new residential building can be used to meet the minimum energy efficiency requirements for heating and cooling, which is not currently possible under energy efficiency heating and cooling programs. In the Building Energy Efficiency Act, the energy requirement for new buildings from 2024 is specified as the level efficiency house 40. After this date, it will no longer be permitted to install heating systems that use fossil fuels. The Building Energy Efficiency Act laws down and freeze energy efficiency requirements for any significant alterations to existing buildings. Furthermore, energy efficiency strategy for buildings sets out a comprehensive strategy for this sector. It brings together the three aspects of power, heat, and energy efficiency to form a clear policy framework for the energy transition in the building sector. In the industry sector, energy efficiency constitutes an important sector for energy. In order to finance climate neutral technologies in the raw materials industry, climate change mitigation contracts in the form of carbon contracts of difference will be introduced by law. This will fund the cost differences between the climate neutral technology and the proceeds which could be generated on the market. Heat pumps are a key technology for the heat transition. Funding and restructuring of the fees and payments on electricity make the installation and operation of a heat pump almost as cheap nowadays as oil or gas heating. For the transport is a sector with a wide range of development in various domains. One of the most important in energy efficiency, the Federal Transport Infrastructure Plan will be adapted to the requirements of the climate neutral Germany in 2045. The review of the requirements plan set for December 2021 will be used to introduce a reorientation. Priority will be given to maintain the grants of the transport infrastructure. The available budget resources will be primarily used for expanding the rail network. In 2024, the expansion legislation will be adapted for the different models of the transport. Federal funding for energy building. The German federal government is taking steps to meet its goal of becoming climate neutral by 2050. One way they hope to achieve is by providing extra funding for newly built houses and apartment buildings that meet certain energy efficiency standards. Buildings consume more than 1/3 of Germany's total energy supply to heat, cooling, and provide hot water to residents. To reduce the amount of energy being wasted, the government is develop the home builders to reconstruct buildings in a way that save energy. Regarding the policy frameworks, the Energy Efficiency Fund, specialized investment vehicle set up for the purpose of investing in energy efficiency projects aimed at improving the energy efficiency of buildings in both the domestic and non-domestic sectors. In part of the German Energiewende, that follows the goal to reduce primary energy consumption by 20% until 2020 and 50% until 2050. Furthermore, it seeks to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 40% until 2020 and 80% until 2050. The fund consists of currently 23 policy measures, including funding schemes and educational activities. They target at contributing to a highly energy efficiency economy, the achievement of climate protection targets, and existing energy saving potential to decrease of energy costs. Funds proceed from the Federal Ministry for Economic Affairs and Energy. The schemes are administered by different federal agencies or the Development Bank Credit Furthering. The National Action Plan on Energy Efficiency, NAPE, represents the energy efficiency strategy of the federal government of Germany. The National Action Plan on Energy Efficiency defines immediate measures and more far-reaching work processes for achieving the national efficiency and climate action targets. The most important areas for action in energy efficiency policy are to advance energy efficiency in the building sector, in industry, in commerce, and in tertiary sector, to establish energy efficiency as a business model and a model of economic return, and to raise users' own sense of individual and group responsibility for energy efficiency. The National Action Plan on Energy Efficiency further measures currently being reworked and transferred into an APE using an effective set of measures to preempt any shortfall regarding achieving the energy targets. The key recommendations expand the scope and ambition of energy and climate policies beyond a focus on the building sector, transport and heat sector. Adopt a more comprehensive approach to promoting reduced energy demand in transportation, including stronger incentives for cost efficiency, consumer adoption of alternative transport technologies, and promotion of public and multimodal transport. Reform and strengthen measures targeting an increased renovation rate of existing buildings to foster energy efficiency improvements, and to ensure the timely expansion and upgrading of transmission lines in order to improve system operation and integrate a larger amount of variable renewable electricity. Regarding the EU taxonomy, consequences are the translation of the EU's climate and environment environmental objectives into clear criteria. Support of companies in their efforts to plan and finance their transition, mitigation of market fragmentation, protection against greenwashing, create of a common language around green activities, increase bureaucratic effort, financing conditions and access to new capital, avoidance of greenwashing of sustainable financing products, and expected European and national funding programs to taxonomy criteria. And as a last slide, I have a legislation in Germany. First, National Energy and Climate Plan. The Building Energy Act contains requirements for the energy quality of buildings, the preparation and use of energy certificates, and the use of renewable energies in buildings. Then the Federal Ministry for Economic Affairs and Energy is responsible for energy policy, the energy transition and climate policy aspects of the energy transition at the federal level. The Federal Ministry for the Environment, Natural Conservation and Nuclear Safety is responsible for environment and climate change policies. The Federal Ministry of Transport and Digital Infrastructure is responsible for the government's fuel strategy and coordination of the energy transition in the transport sector. And the Federal Office for Economic Affairs and Export Control, TAFA, is also an agency within the Federal Ministry of Transport and Digital Infrastructure with responsibility to implement export controls, oversee economic development, especially for small and medium-sized enterprises, and to finance measures in the energy sector that promote greater use of renewable and efficiency energy savings. Thank you all for your participation, and especially thanks Stella for the presentation. If you have further questions, as Stella said in the chat, you can contact Duo, the coordinator of the project. You can see the email contact at aa-82020.eu, or you can also contact me and my mail katiebody@jrconline.com.
May I also remind you all, please, to fill in the poll, provide your answers to the poll. That would be very great.
Yeah, thank you.
It's down on the toolbar below the presentation. Thank you, Konstantina, for putting this together.
Yeah, thank you.
If there are no other questions, I would say goodbye on my side. All right, then.
Oh, thank you all.
Thanks to everybody, and a Merry Christmas.
Yeah, Merry Christmas.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. Have a nice day.
Bye-bye.